Hey, students, this is Mr. Jackson. Today I'm coming to you because we're going to be talking about exploration. I'm glad to see all of you back and doing the assignments. I'm very encouraged by when I look at amount of students who are turning in assignments. It is awesome to see that you guys are actually doing the lessons that we put inside of Google Classroom. Okay, here's what we're going to do today. But before we get started, I want to tell you also, Miss Smith and Mr. Lugwood and Miss Manning and Miss Belchag and Mr. Jackson all terribly miss you guys. We want you guys to personally know that we miss you, and we are can't wait to get back with you. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started with the assignment. Okay, all right, so we're going to be talking about the age of exploration. Once again, some of this is review material. You've heard it before, but you just may have forgotten some of it. So we thought I go over some of the exploration with you. Now, in order to do that, let's see, why is my I will be if you have your history manual, you may or may not, and if you do, you that's no problem. Turn to page 50 in your history manual. We're gonna be working from these two pages. If you don't have these two pages, no big deal at all. It's not required. You don't need it because there's right below this video. There's a link to a flip chart that I'm teaching from. Click on that flip chart and you can just follow along with it. But if you're one of those people, you like me, you like to have your history manual in front of you, you can, because these are the two pages I'm going to be talking from. All right, now we're going to talk about the age of exploration. Now, exploration is a huge, gigantic unit that really covers quite a bit, and there's so much happening over a period of 200 to 300 years, and it's just a lot going on about people getting out on the sea and the oceans and seeing what's out there. And the age of exploration comes off the heels of the Black Plague, where many of you remember, and it's kind of interesting. We're talking about the Black Plague during the coronavirus. Is that the Black Plague takes place during this period, the 1300s, during the time of in Europe during the 1300s. Well, during this time period, what's winding up happening is after the Black Plague, there's this birth of science movement where people want to get out and see more and get out of Europe, because Europe technically is overpopulated and overcrowded. All of Europe. And people say, you know what, I want to see what's around the world. Well, first of all, let's see if there is a world. Now, many of you know that a lot of the explorers initially were hesitant to get out on the oceans and the seas because of what grandma, that legend she's been telling everybody. And what was the legend? How many of y'all remember what that legend was? And that is, there are sea monsters out there. You'll fall off the end of the world. The world is flat. You'll fall off. All of these different stories that grandma's been telling for decades and centuries have prevented people from getting out there. Well, finally, some of the explorers saying, you know what, grandma, I don't know if that story is true or not, because I've never seen you go out there on the ocean. So I'm going to actually go out there and I'm going to go see if there's really a such thing as the world being flat. I'm going to go out there and see if there's really these sea monsters that you say exist. So they get out on the ocean, and now explorers are broke. They don't really have any money, and so they need to somebody to sponsor the trip. Well, back then you took about 4 to 6 trips. I mean, 4 to 6 ships on a trip, which is quite expensive, and you had to have manpower, which was also expensive. And you, as an explorer, you love science and you love the idea of traveling and adventure, but you don't have any money. So who do you turn to? The monarch family. And the monarch family says, all right, cool, you can go out, but there are 3 things I want you to do: gold, God, and glory. Let me say it again: gold, God, and glory. And I'll break each one of those down. Gold, you look at your screen right here, you got the gold. And the monarch family is saying, you go out and get us some gold and bring us some gold back. All right. Or now, I don't really like necessarily every history teacher from East Coast all the way back out to West Coast of California. They all say gold. I like the term treasures instead of gold, or you to understand that gold is treasures, because it's not just gold as in gold that we're talking. They were looking for. They were looking for anything that they could make some money off of. Things like pottery. That would have been a gold or treasure. Things like clothing, that would have been treasure. New types of foods and animals that they could bring back to Europe. That was a treasure that could be equated to gold because you could all make money off of them. And the monarch family said, bring all of that back to us, and we can bring all that back to us to Europe, and we will that I can build up my empire by it. Okay, so the explorers, and then also the explorer gets a little cut out of it too, because he gets the fame of saying, "I found these things." The next thing was God. All right, now God represented the religion, which was Christianity, was huge in Europe. I mean, it was astronomically huge. Everybody served Christianity in Europe. And one of the things was they went over to Europe, and when they went to Europe, when the explorers went out from Europe, the monarch family says, "Look here, whenever you go and you put my flag down, I want you to spread our Christianity." Because back then they used religion as a control mechanism to control people and hide. So you get people, you find what treasures they have or what gold they have, and then you take it, and then you make them serve your religion, and whatever that religion happened to be Christianity at that time, you say you make them bow down to our religious beliefs. All right. And then the last thing is the glory. The explorers were tasked with spreading the monarch family's glory. Now, spreading the glory was meant that you go out and you spread the king's power, or the monarch family, because it was queens too. The monarch family's power. That's the glory part. You spread their power. Wherever you go, you put my flag down and you tell those people that you are now going to submit under King George or Queen Antoinette, Queen Isabella. All of these different monarch families, you're going to have to submit to them. So here we go again. Go, God, in glory. Go, find whatever treasures you can and bring them back to the king and queen. God, wherever you go, you put down our cross and our flag, and you say you're going to serve Christianity, and glory, you're going to bow down and serve the monarch family. Now, if you're not already sitting at the edge of your seat, who do you think is going to have a problem with this? Probably last week we studied what group? The Native Americans, because they're not giving up their treasures, and they're not serving Christianity, and they're not going to bow down to the monarch family. Okay, so then the next thing. All right, so let's look at, so they're all leaving Europe. So let's look at who's all coming. The first explorer we want to look at is Francisco Canado. Now, Canado is probably one of the most influential explorers ever to set sail on the sea. It's sad that he died in such shame because he actually was a pretty good explorer. Now, he was a Spanish conquistador, and if you know anything about them conquistadors, they did not play. They were the ones that they had a sword in one hand and a Bible in another. And if you didn't submit to their religious belief, they were done with you. And they came in and took your land right away. I mean, they were pretty brutal. The conquistadors didn't play games at all in the name of exploration. And he went out for Spain, and he found it. Look at this map right here on your screen: Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma. He founded the biggest territory of all explorers of North America. Now, when he set out, he told the Queen that he was going to look for, find something. There was this myth out there that there was these 7 cities of gold, and that there were these cities of nothing but strictly gold. Everything was made out of gold. It was a total legend, and he believed in it. Coronado believed in it. So he set out thinking, I'll bring all this back for the queen, and she'll be so happy with me. And in the quest, he finds all of this: the Grand Canyon, Arizona, New Mexico. He finds all this territory, but he never finds the 7 cities of gold. So he goes back to the queen, and she's furious that, oh, you found all the land, but you didn't find any treasure. And sadly, she had him banished to a point where thrown in jail, to a point where he lived his later years in strictly poverty. He did not get the fame, and no matter of fact, he died not anyone not knowing him. It wasn't until like 100 years after his death that we started giving him recognition for everything that he had done, because we realized, whoa, he wasn't a bad guy. Even though he didn't find the seven seas of gold, he founded Arizona, New Mexico, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, all down here in Mexico. This guy founded the greatest share of land than any other explorer. He should not have died in shame. But because back then everything was about money, uh, even though today is also about money, everything was about money. The queen at that time, the monarch family had him looked at him shamelessly. But we now know deep down he was actually a pretty good guy. All right, the next one, Samuel de Champlain, Frenchman, who came from who actually up here. Now, if you go up here by Quebec, you look at up here by the St. Lawrence River, you see where he founded the St. Lawrence River. Now, what's really interesting on this side of Canada, now he's got you got he founded Quebec, this little city of Quebec. If you ever go to Canada, it's really interesting how when you go up there, you can tell the areas where the French explorers really came in and settled because everyone speaks what? French. When you go to Quebec, all of the street signs are in French. All the restaurants are in French. The students, they go to school. The teachers speak French. I mean, it's a very French settlement area. And then you're like, well, Mr. Jackson, what's so big about that? Because you go on the other side of Canada, like Toronto, and everybody speaks English. Well, you can see where the English founded areas versus where the French founded area, and it's just really weird. And they have no desire at all to change how they do things there. They do not want to become an English-speaking territory within Canada, and that all goes back to this gentleman right here, Samuel de Champlain. He set up some of the earlier French trading posts with the Native Americans. And in doing so, when he set up these trading posts with the Native Americans, we could trade with them back in. He was one of the earlier users of the beaver furs, where we could take back and forth the beaver furs to Europe, to France. We got the beaver furs from the Native Americans, and we took back over to Great to I'm sorry. We took he set up the trading posts with the Native Americans, and those trading posts that's where we traded goods. We brought them guns and what have you, and they gave us different beaver furs and what have you. And he was one of the earliest establishers of that. All right, the next one was Robert LaSalle. Robert de LaSalle. Now, LaSalle claimed the Mississippi River Valley. Now, what's really cool was Robert also was another Frenchman who came over from France, an explorer, and he gave us this route. Not only did we also talked about him coming up with the Mississippi River Valley, but Robert LaSalle also really showed us the Gulf of Mexico. You see this this little line here. Now, granted, we already kind of knew that about the Gulf of Mexico, but he's credited with really ushering in these routes that got us quickly to that connected to from the Gulf of Mexico to the Mississippi River and getting us there. Now, mind you, all this taking place in the 1600s, well long before the before the technology is beginning to improve. He's doing all of this with some of that old kind of ships. Now look at that. That's like 1678 to 1682, 1684, 1687. Does anybody remember what year that we actually came here to the New World? 1607. So he's claiming this. I mean, he's finding this area while we're living on the East Coast. He's finding this area over here in the Mississippi River Valley. So the only reason why I bring that up, I want you to see something that I think is just so cool. I just thought about this. While we were still living here, while we had started moving into the New World, there were explorers still finding land over here in the New World. They were still discovering it, even though we're moving all over here in the New World. So, anyway, that's Robert LaSalle. All right, the next one, John Cabot. John Cabot. Now, John Cabot that explored the eastern part of Canada. Now, he hails from England. Now, remember, so let's go back here. Let's go back. Samuel de Champlain comes from what country? France. Look at this country, England. And he finds John Cabot in the eastern part of Canada. Now, the reason why I bring that up is when you go over to this part of Canada right here, outside of the Quebec, which is way on the northeast, you go over here, they speak English. And where is he from? England. And we attribute that to John Cabot. Now he also found routes. If you go here to Newfoundland, he founded these routes that allowed us to be able to explore in those areas. He's credited with doing this. Now he did this during the, I want to say, let me make sure, but double check on that. I think I want to say the 1400s. Is that correct? Let me see. I could be wrong with that. Let me double check that. Um, because I don't think he was. Hold on a second. I'm sorry, student. John Cabot. John Cabot. Cabot. See here. Yeah, I was correct. The 1400s. Yeah, and then see, he was one of the earlier ones. I mean, like way before we got to the New World. Unlike if you look at Robert LaSalle came here during the time period that we Robert LaSalle, if you look at what's really interesting, Robert LaSalle, he founded the Mississippi River in the 1600s. And by that point, we were already here. But whereas John Cabot, he founded these routes to Newfoundland in the 1400s. Now, you like, well, why does that matter? Because at that time, they really, the navigational tools and the ships and how the maps were horrible in the 1400s. And yet Robert LaSalle was able to, John Cabot was able to find these places. And I think that's why it's so good that, I always liked this guy is because he really truly was one of the original explorers who left Europe at a time when Europe was doing a horrible job, when Europe was so uh, plagued with so many problems. He was one of the original guys that got out and said, you know what, I'm getting out there on the sea and I want to see what's out there because there's a big wide ocean out there, and I'm not feeling this sitting in Europe anymore. Okay, so I just thought I'd throw that out there. All right, and then lastly we have Portugal. The last country I want to talk about is Portugal. Now Portugal is instrumental, is in that they didn't really explore the world as much as they got out and used. Portugal is instrument in uh, delivering like things like manufactured goods such as chairs and they first started chairs and tables and desks. They first started with West Africa, the country of Portugal. They started with West Africa. They moved in here and they started trading in and bringing in things from Portugal. And well, why is that so important? Because they were the ones that really first opened up an economic trade. In other words, who knows what economic trade is? I'll wait 3 seconds. If you said money trade, there you'll be correct. They're the first one to start opening up a money trade. They started bringing things from Europe that they were making, and then things from Africa that they were making back to Europe. And then eventually they go from you taking things to people. And they saw Portuguese were the first to bring these slaves into North America, and actually all the way around the world. But that's where they get their the Portuguese, where they get their why there's so much why reason why I bring them up is because of the fact that they're starting the economic trade of all of the European countries. Can we go over to this map? That's what I'm looking at. You look at this map of Europe here. You got Portugal, Spain, France, and up here you've got what at that time England. All of these different European countries up here that are that have been going out exploring, trying to put their flag down in these different. And something I got to bring up. I'm sorry, I should have brought this up earlier. All of these explorers, Francisco Canado, Samuel de Champlain, Robert LaSalle, John Cabot, all of them want to be the first one to put their flag down in the New World. Every last one. Because back then, that was the biggest thing. You want to be able to put your flag down so you can have what? Bragging rights. Every last one of them want to put their flag down. All right. So now, I say all of that to say to you, and I'm going to sum this thing up. This is a great, 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 great thing that's happening, but there's one problem. When we get to the New World, who do you think we encounter? The Native Americans. Are they cool with all of this coming in, taking land and claiming land and the whole idea of stealing treasures and making forcing people with Christianities? Absolutely not. They're not feeling these explorers. This picture here looks like they're all getting along, they're all happy, but really and truly, there was a lot of conflict between the two. There was some cooperation, but there was some conflict, primarily because this guy here wants the land that this guy owns. This guy here wants to come in and bring his way of life and push it over on this guy here. That's going to bring some conflict. And then, but there are areas of cooperation because they traded a lot between the two of each other. But at the end of the day, it was uh, some challenges. Now, I'm going to have a video for you on cooperation and conflict. I want you to watch the video. It's going to be on cooperation conflict of the Native Americans, and hopefully you enjoy it. Other than that, that's it. That's our lesson for today. Thank you for watching this week, and we'll be back next week with your next lesson. All right? Have a good day. Bye-bye. Take care.